Warning: the video contains controversial and traumatized story. That is not for the faint of heart. Viewer discretion is advised. Previously on Case Files.
Shit!
Sir, status report.
Someone's making a grand entrance through the wall. I don't see who it is through the smoke and fire.
I'm driving in hang tight.
Whoever it is, he sounds big.
Where's my trading cards, you jerks?
No, it can't be.
Sir, who is it?
It's Chris!
And now the story continues.
Where's my trading cards?
Rook, it's him.
You mean the loco?
Yeah, I couldn't even believe it either. But wait a minute, what is he doing here?
From the audio conversations, he's the buyer.
Oh shit, then that means he's the one that stole his mom's credit card.
It seems to appear that way.
We'll get into contact with Dr. Olivia later. Right now we need to get these criminal scums out of here.
Right away, sir.
Testing. Is this thing on? This is Hoxton, aka The Lone Wolf, along with his AI companion, Rook, doing a documentary 5 on subject named, hang on, Christopher Weston Chandler. This contract was tasked by Dr. Olivia Blackwood at the Orlison Clinic. Without further ado, let us start from the beginning.
Christopher Weston Chandler is widely regarded as the most documented individual and the biggest lolcow that the internet would like to say about him.
But over the years his perception of reality is warped, being trolled and humiliated. Let us get one thing clear, that we are not here to assassinate his character, but treating him as he were a patient and observing him.
To see the bigger picture for who he is in his history. I've been wanting to do this for a very long time, but couldn't due to the many information that's been flowing out of the Quickie.
What essentially is that? It is a page about Chris, that is documented by the Christorians for years.
Reading from the Quickie site, it almost feels like I'm reading a Southern King novel. Reading through all that article, it sounds very similarly to The Dunwich of Horror. I don't exactly know why, but I just find it as a coincidence.
Yet I'm not mad, and I surely do not dream.
That being said, let us look into his history.
It is important to note that over the years, Chris has been deemed to be an unreliable narrator, regarding of the following reasons, such as him being as a habitual liar, will often exaggerate things that happened, often to make himself look better, considerably naive. Accounts on how a certain event went down will often vary with each time he recalls it.
But that is the only reason. Here are other reasons. Delusions of grandeur, psychosis, schizophrenia, persecutory, thought broadcasting, bipolar disorder, psychotic disorder, and last but not least, high-functioning autism. These are the conditions he had accumulated over the years.
And let that be sufficient.
Now you might say that it has something to do with Chris's parents, him being that way, but that's up for debate. Especially one who is being narcissistic.
Christopher Chandler was born on February the 24th, 1982, and he is the half-brother of Cole Smith,
who is the legitimate son of Randy Coleman Yates, and Barbara's first child before Chris. Unlike his parents, he is one of the first that wants nothing to do with Chris's antics, and for very good reasons because of his birth mother.
Let's just say there's a conflict between the two, and is not part of this story in respects.
Chris said the word monkey at 6 weeks old, which is impossible to do in speech.
Most babies say their first words sometime between 12 and 18 months of age, which is theoretically impossible cause of its conflicting narration.
He can talk, sir! Hello, Father. Smother it!
The reasons being is that he had to go through speech therapy and was mute throughout his 7 years, partially due to the babysitter that Chris claims locked him in the toy room with the lights off without his parents around, at 18 months old. Chris also claims that this is a result of his disability, which that is not true.
Yeah. Keep in mind this is unreliable narration on his accounts.
During the 80s, Christopher had a playmate named Sarah Nicole, one of his first friends. According to Chris, he indicated that Sarah once convinced him that Casper the Friendly Ghost lived in the crawl space under her house. When he crawled in there to look, she locked him in a stunning display of their friendship, beginning Chris's lifelong career of getting trolled.
Which is a foreshadowing in later years.
But surprisingly, he holds no grudges against her.
So far, he seems like a good kid living out his days. But trust us, it gets downhill from here on in.
After going through speech therapy and was able to talk at age 7 for the first time, he attended to the Nathaniel Green Elementary School during 1990 through 91.
That is until his parents pulled him out of class, over a, shall we say, mysterious dispute.
Chris claims, in his own words, that he was forcefully restrained by the school's faculty who recorded his screams, and that he was made to sit on the lap of the principal, an experience that is supposedly inspired his homophobia.
We forgot to mention his Christian religion.
Which, to be fair, that's his own beliefs, along with his parents. Though the story about what had happened in Nathaniel Green is a mystery.
Because there was a lawsuit being made, and was later dropped after the legal recourse had failed, partially due to Greene County wanting him in a special school.
While Chris is being homeschooled, an animatronic bear, Leonard Bearstein, misheard Christopher's first name and called him Christian, which inexplicably convinced Christopher to later have his name legally changed. And this is before he and his father Bob had been relocated to Richmond so that Chris could continue his education in a different school system, starting with the 6th grade at Providence Middle School.
And this is where we learn about him in Sonic the Hedgehog Watch and win sweepstakes at age 11.
And this would be his obsession of entering and winning contests.
And trust us, there are better ways to save money than spending it on toys and video games over the years.
He and his parents were known to be hoarders even before or after he graduated from college. But that's another matter that would be later to be discussed.
So far we knew he was lying and exaggerating about his past in bits and pieces. Him speaking at 6 weeks old is false. Babies can only speak at 12 to 18 months of age. The babysitter story has too many holes that it needs answers. Like, how did Chris get locked in a toy room? Second, how did the babysitter become toxic? And lastly, this is the cause of his disability. Those 3 questions are rhetorical because it never happened. Actually, correction, this may result to go to therapy if it did. And lastly, the mysterious inquiries at elementary. Chris's parents pulled him out of class because he was abuse, and Chris claims 3 of them pinned him down and record his cries, on top of him sitting the principal's lap, which made him homophobic, which I hate to say is outlandish, but the lawsuit does hold proof of which that later be dismissed.
Greene County has dead set this idea of having Chris being put in a special school rather than just a normal school. While Chris's parents, for some odd reason, seriously interpret or seriously think this is a code word for putting him in the mental institution, decided to actually relocate to Richmond. So instead of putting him in a special school, this has dire consequences. With Chris becoming a teenager and graduated from Providence Middle School, not much details to say about.
He did develop an obsession on 2 things, Sonic the Hedgehog and Pokemon, after he was enrolled in high school.
In Manchester High School is when we first learn about his creation of Sonic Shoe, a character fusion of Sonic the Hedgehog and Pokemon's Pikachu. Now let's be for real here for a moment that I have nothing against character fusions. Character fusions can lead up to interesting and new concept, to downright hilarious, and other times become horrifying. But with Chris Chance's character fusion that looks like an interesting concept would be later to become infamous due to its comic books after high school.
Reading these comics reads off like a Sutton Kane novel.
you read, Sutter Kane?
By 2007, they made a discovery about him and in his comics, and news about him spread like wildfires onto the internet. A quick rundown before he became infamous on the internet. Yes, he did graduate from Manchester High School, but he became oversensitive crybaby because he didn't got the art certificate from his graduation. Feeling bummed and depressed, he decided to search for a sweetheart called the Love Quest.
What it is essentially, it's an ad campaign that involves Chris and a potential female companion he is seeking. Needless to say, the qualifications are questionable in preferences.
Reading from this, it looks like a offline dating profile. A dating profile that would require the internet instead of loitering and soliciting in various other places. Especially at the Piedmont, Virginia Community College that he was enrolled in.
However, his soliciting caught the attention of Mary Lee Walsh, the Dean of Piedmont, Virginia Community College. And needless, what happened is that he got banned for a year. After a threatening, crude drawing of Mary, Chris did.
Mary told Chris that he needs to stop soliciting, otherwise he's gonna get banned. And Chris, being brainless, became confrontational against Mary Lee Walsh.
He was banned for a year, until he graduated in 2006 associate degree.
Before we even go any further about why he became famous on the internet, let us play the role of a hard-nosed detective and figure out why he became who he is. After graduating from Piedmont, Virginia Community College with a degree of computer-aided drafting and design, he never even got a job after college. Technically, he had a job back in 2003, only for 2 weeks working at Wendy's, until there was too many complaints about him. Presumably, it has something to do with the love quest that he keeps thinking about in his own daydreaming, or just perhaps staring at female customers, which people deemed him as an automatic creep. After getting kicked out of the community college for a year, is when he actually meets Megan Schroeder at the game place.
Looking at this poor girl's face, she has a look of fear.
For context, Megan had a boyfriend and previously broken up before meeting Chris. She didn't pursue another relationship after the breakup, which is very understandable on her behalf. And as for Chris, who doesn't take no for an answer and has no common sense, sees this opportunity by touching Megan inappropriately. Most people would just look at it and say to themselves,
I can either leave it be, or have another bullet ripped through his fucking skull.
Just to tell him to quit his shit.
And lastly, his parents. They are a very strange individuals. The Chandlers looked normal in hindsight during the 80s, until the 90s and 2000s is when the strangeness kicked in. Barbara's harding habits, for example, and Bob's blissful ignorance. They've been sheltering Chris after he was born and in the present, delaying his social speech the older he got. Plus, let's not forget about the special school they refused to put him in, making Chris the oddball character. After his discovery on internet in 2007.
The first time I heard about him is when Frederick Knudsen made a video down the rabbit hole and explained that 4chan was the website that started this whole discovery. The link is in the description for further details. After his discovery on the internet, there's been countless documents and articles all regarding about him over the years, all written by the Christorians. The Christorians are scholars that just took a look into his past, his bad qualities, how he got trolled, even including the events. There is an early documentation about him by a mall employee called The Tale of the Crazy Pacer, further cementing on how strange and unusual he is. And as for the trolling part, I could just talk about it all day, just how he got trolled by 29 people or group over the years. I'll leave another link to that as well.
From here, we're going into broader strokes about his religion.
Let me be brutally honest that I'm not a religious type of person. Although I took in to learn and study their beliefs, yet I'm not a religious type. But in Chris Chance's case, he is deemed as a sinner.
Going into 2008, after being labelled as a lolcow, things are not looking great after his pastor banned him from the house of worship after he discovered the ED page,
which stands for Encyclopedia Dramatica, which is also another article website. But this also means two things. One is that his pastor doesn't want to be dragged in the same mud as like Chris has, or two,
there are 7 deadly sins, Captain. Gluttony, greed, sloth, wrath, pride, lust, and envy. 7.
Now, I could make a reference to the movie Seven, but this is just too damn easy. So instead, let's go with the Elden Ring themed character wheel just to actually, of course, establish all 7 sins.
They say pride is admirable, but take too far it becomes bitter ignorance. For example, Sonichu, Chris Chan's character Fuse from 2000. There's been comic books, medallion merch, a website, and a business card Chris carries around in public, like he really did have pride to his work. But unfortunately, nothing can be said the same thing to the man himself. The biggest obvious we took note of, it is narcissistic, self-centered, blown ego that thinks he has accomplished in his lifetime. Remember that part of the story, how he claims he spoke the word monkey at 6 weeks old? Well, that's because he fabricated it for his pride, or his mother for that matter. We don't know. However, we can say he holds a very significance about his birthday, February the 24th, aka Christian Love Day, as he puts it. To quote from Chris, a second day for love in addition to Valentine's Day, because the day to me at least just feels like a holiday, in addition to it being my birthday, unquote. It does hold something significant, but however it's a Spanish holiday called Dia de la Bandera, known as Flag Day in Mexico. How Chris took note of it in the first place is a big mystery. He thinks the country that has a holiday specific day to his, so naturally this could be a holiday for him, just noting how odd it is.
Chris Chan has one of the most unhealthy spending habits when it comes to his financials, such as spending unonerous amounts of toys and video games without even, of course, spending it on his brighter future, living as a lazy man instead of working as a hard-class working man. After graduating from college, he was enrolled with the Social Security Disability Insurance, known as SSDI, or he refers to it as monthly tugboat. One of the lazy man's textbook tricks of the trade. There's a lot of evidence of items that he bought that are lined on the wall, further proof that he is not saving money. As I mentioned before, he used to work at a Wendy's back in 2003 for only 2 weeks before giving him the boot. After he graduated from college, he never pursued another job. By 2011, after Robert Chandler's passing, he left $10,000 to his wife and child, keeping them financially afloat. However, it did not last long until they had to hire a lawyer that represents them in the case of Michael Snyder, the former owner of the game place many years ago. There has been a feud between the Chandlers and Michael Snyder after Chris Chan had been banned from the game place back in 2008. Chris had tried to re-enter the game place back in 2011, but was turned away by Michael Snyder yet again. Freshly pissed that he cannot enter the game place, he took a photo of Michael Snyder, which resulted into the hit and run between him and his mother back in 2011, marking the beginning of the financial difficulties. January 10th, 2014, Chris's house was set on fire. It was quickly discovered that the coffee maker that was leading to the bathroom outlet is the cause of the fire itself, burning every single last trash and whatever else inside. People had gathered the supplies and just sent it to Chris Chan as a sort of wake-up call to get his act together, but to no avail. His spending habits had started ever since he won that contest back in the 90s, as I previously mentioned. It is unfortunate that he had to sell some of the stuff, including Robert Chandler's stamp collections, to eBay, but it wasn't enough due to his own spending habits.
What attracts the internet users' attention was his quote boyfriend free girl unquote, or the love quest. He puts banners and flyers around his area. The offline profile we mentioned earlier, Over time it becomes aboundedly clear that Christopher's search for true love is more of a search of a woman that would take his virginity and cuddle him, giving him a childlike existence he desired. To me and my colleague it's creepy. Yet, he's been doing this for 15 years from 2003 to 2018. The trolls that had discovered him in 2007 notice how gullible he is and trolled him without mercy. There's information about fake girlfriends as well in the link on trolling in the description.
As previously mentioned, after he won the contest for $1,000, this is where the start of his spending habit began. But this is also another source of his blown ego as sense of pride, entering at various other contests and never won. For example, in 2005, Adult Swim held a contest for Harvey Birdman Attorney at Law for the commercial making, where contestants have to make their homemade commercials that features Volume 1 box set. Unfortunately for Chris, he lost the contest and was complaining to Adult Swim's website. By 2007, another contest was held at the PlayStation Underground for Parappa the Rappa Chop Chop Master Onion's Rap Showdown. Contestants were to film themselves performing either Chop Chop Master Onion's rap, Instructor Mussolini's rap, or Cheep Cheep the Cooking Chicken's rap a cappella, which, no offense, is a complete mouthful. The grand prize winner of the contest will receive 2 PSPs and an all-expense-paid trip to Seattle for the 2007 Penny Arcade Expo. Thinking he got this in the bag by wooing Megan to accompany him on his trip was going to be a cakewalk. Unfortunately, it tells a different story. Feeling compelled of winning this contest, he decided to make fake accounts and convincing other people to upvote his video, making him, of course, placing 10. The competition was won by Adam Stackhouse. Being the narcissistic man-child he is, Chris has bore a grudge against him for a long time, as he felt Adam broke the rules by having music and multiple people in his entry. Unfortunately, no rules have been broken. Before moving on, I wanted to discuss real quick about Megan's perspective view. According to the written article, she was glad that Chris never won the contest, and even if he did win the contest, she will never accompany him to his trip to the Penny Arcade Expo, showing clear signs that she wants to avoid him, and their friendship being blackened a year later.
Not only we are treating him as a patient, but as a Weight Watchers as well. He gained considerable amount of weight after graduating from high school and going into community college at Piedmont, Virginia. For example, the out-of-breathness in the contest, as previously mentioned, his dietary consists of fast foods he ate. McDonald's, Burger King, and oddly enough Wendy's, the place he used to work at. There's been speculations of him eating salads from McDonald's, but we cannot prove if it is true or not for people new to theories. His body weight and height is teetering towards obesity, clocking at 29 on the mark.
Christian is known to have frequent bursts of rage whenever the internet trolls have ever trolled him so badly and so horribly for the onlookers' amusements. Again, I highly recommend watching the first link in the description for further details.
No offense, Chris is one of the laziest people on the planet who is not willing to change. As he said, stress is a #1 contributing factor, which is total BS. Hell, he stopped making Sonichu comics, which pretty much faded at this point, and he procrastinates on making more. Chris wants to live as a child by playing toys and video games, by posting it on the internet, as he lived for decades until the death of his father. Their parenting are horrendous, as years went on, making Chris the laziest man on planet Earth, with all those sins as proof since 2003.
Now, we're not here to assassinate his character, other than just point out the 7 bad qualities he had over the years, especially this one out of the rest. Now, let's place a scenario that is a real-life situation, like Fallout, for example. I can guarantee you he will never survive in a month. Maybe weeks, hell, even days even. And I can guarantee you he will die in the wasteland.
The darkness of the afterlife is all that awaits you now. May you find more peace in that world than you found in this one.
Now, we don't mean to be dark, but it's the truth if you stop and think about it, just because of how he was fucking raised all those years. And that's genuinely the problem for him.
After being kicked out of the house of worship, Megan soon later found a drawing of her and Chris having, well, sexual interactions in a bedroom.
Yeah, we're not gonna even show that. It's mainly due to because of the YouTube algorithm. And another thing is that I don't want to give this sick mofo this satisfaction. If anybody else has a morbid curiosity about the drawing in question, you could just look it up on the Wikipedia, not here. But getting back to the topic, Megan had discovered that drawing on March 12, 2008.
After discovering it, she kept her distance from him. Until April 12, 2008, she wrote an email to Chris, saying she feels uncomfortable being around him and putting an end to their friendship.
Keep in mind that she'd broken up with her boyfriend and doesn't even want to pursue another relationship. All because of this fat donut doesn't want to take no for an answer. Now, I don't want to hurl insults, but at the same time, he is a fucking creep.
That's putting it mildly, but unfortunately, this isn't the major downfall. The gameplays, and soon after, is the real downfall.
After a long period of increasingly disruptive behavior and repeated warnings from staff, Chris was permanently kicked out of the store by one of the manager, Michael Snyder, on June 6, 2008. After his permanent ban, Chris attempts several times to regain access to the store, to no avail thanks to Michael Snyder's insistence.
Years went on after being trolled multiple times, him coming out as a transvestite, and the passing of his late father Robert Chandler. He attempted to enter the gameplays again in October 28, 2011.
Remember that $10,000 that Robert Chandler had left for both of them? Well, it's mainly due to because they had to pay for a lawyer, all because of the hit and run charge on Michael Snyder. Michael Snyder saw him taking photos, chase him off of the property, and that's when the incident happened in the parking lot.
That suit is going to come out of your pay, and you will remain in this man's army until you are 510 years old, which is the number of years it will take for you to pay for a Mark II powered combat armor you have lost.
By January 10, 2014, Chris's house was set on fire, and was discovered that the extension cord leading to the bathroom became exposed, catching the trash they have on fire. Hence why the financial difficulties they have, as previously mentioned.
By 2018, he predicted a semi-apocalypse called the Dimensional Merge, which kinda sounds familiar for some reason.
You can't hide. Come here. You can't hide from me.
Ah yes, The Dunwich Horror by H.P. Lovecraft.
What exactly does this got to do with Chris?
Well, Rook, I'm glad you asked. See, if I started reading the summary and comparing him, it all makes sense to you. The story starts us off with a main antagonist known as Wilbur Whately. He was born in a very strange and unusual family in the town of Dunwich. Sort of like Chris being born in the very strange and unusual family in West Virginia. Wilbur Whately was able to speak at a very English at the early age of 11 months, freeing himself from the infantile lisping. He has a mother by the name of Lavidian Whately, who is an albino woman that gave birth to him, and a grandfather by the name of Old Wizard Whately, who gathered books from very ancient to the very tomes. Wilbur Whately has a very unusual accelerated aging and was helping Old Man Whately before his death of a heart attack. In his final moments, among the living, he told Wilbur to find the Necronomicon and opened the dimensional portal to Yog-Sothoth. To his dismay, the pages are missing, and found the exact copy at the library of the Miskatonic University of Arkham. He tried to steal the book at night, but was attacked by a guard dog, revealing the true nature of who he is. Upon his death, Wilbur Whately is not even human. He has goat-like legs and reptilian-like skin, tentacles emerging from the abdomen that has mouths at the very end, with eyes protruding out of the hips, and a tail that also has a mouth. After Wilbur Whately died, his body began to melt rapidly and disappeared without a trace. No single blood, no trace of his own corpse. A month has passed since that fateful night. Becomes a newer problem. The Whately farmhouse spontaneously exploded, causing all the town folks, including Henry Armitage, the librarian who prevented Whately from taking the book from the library itself, had gathered to discover and trying to find whatever caused that explosion to begin with. There is a creature of unknown forces that is invisible. Armitage, along with his colleague, concocted a mere concoction that would make the monster visible, revealing to be a blob of flesh. Armitage used the Necronomicon to summon the lightning, sending the creature back from whence it came. After the battle had won, a young man was shaken and terrified, seeing the blob's face that would haunt him for the rest of his days. He claims that he saw old Wizard Whately's face in the blob of mass. The story reveals itself that it is Wilbur Whately's twin brother.
Wait a minute, are you saying Chris's life story is that of Wilbur Whately?
Essentially, yes. But there's a big difference. The difference is that Wilbur Whately is highly intelligent versus Christopher Weston Chandler, who is direct opposite.
Since we now know about his past, his sins, and comparing his life story to that of the Dunwich Horror in similarities, it's time change the roles of a hard-nosed detective to a prosecutor.
What I'm about to tell you may require of context. Let's start from the beginning. In the late 2019, going into the early 2020, he has been cosplaying as Sonic Shoe ever since the start of the pandemic, for about a year.
Holy shit, that's insane. I guess it has something to do with the coping mechanism then.
Indeed, but that's not even the fucked up part, but this is. On August 1st, 2021, Christopher Weston Chandler was arrested for the alleged incest with his own mother after the restraining order was placed. Null, one of the members of the Kiwi Farms, put two and two together of who this woman that Christopher Weston Chandler was dating, and came to the logical conclusion that it was his own mother, after Chris provided him with enough information for him to search. The next morning, Null got a bank statement that says that Barbara gave Christopher Weston Chandler the $750 and confronted him about this information. Null quickly found out that he stole the $750 and called the police on Christopher Weston Chandler for breaking the restraining order. Null cut ties and communications from Chris after he called the police. But that's not exactly all from this information.
There's been phone call recordings and videos that provides enough solid evidence, making the /Chris did what? Spread like wildfires on the internet.
I highly recommend watching the video as Null explains about his situation and what was actually going on from his perspective, which I'll put the link down below. But for now, let's go hardcore serious about this.
3 months in the nut house. It was the longest I'd ever been confined.
After Chris was arrested, he was taken to court. Yet he had no brain at all, is by interrupting the court proceedings on multiple times, added to the long lists of charges he could have faced.
Such as multiple accounts of disturbing the peace, sexual assault, an assault, destruction of property, vehicular almost manslaughter, and of course a hit-and-run charge, and the list goes on. There's also some other accounts that he is being racist and racially ignorant, And not to mention, of course, acting like he is a sovereign citizen. Through his mind, he sees all police officers as being fake, given various reasons to drill his head of how screwed he is.
But we are not here to shit-talk about him. Other than the crimes he may, or may not have committed, including the allegedly incest charge, and nothing more.
I could just hear the keyboards tapping away and asking the question, did he really do it? To that I say yes. Yes, he really did. And for a lot of good reasons, because of the audio recording that he of course admitted, Noel finding out the truth for himself, and even including of course the writings that he of course sent out through his own mail through prison. But that's not entirely all. He's been in prison for close to about 2 years until he got transferred to the asylum for 3 months, showing evidence that he is morbidly insane due to his coping mechanism.
Please, no, I got a family.
Shut up and bleed, you motherfucker.
We do apologize if we say prison here or there. The correct term is that he has been in jail, not prison.
If there's one thing I don't understand is this. Why is it Christopher Chandler not put in prison? The answer is really quite simple. Because the charges he had racked up over the years are small offenses compared to the glaring large offense that is the incest charge he could have faced. Such, for example, Megan Schroeder and Michael Snyder. Both of them could put charges on Chris in court if, say, repeat offender's case, or warrant for his arrest in the past, which means he would be put to prison. But unfortunately, he's mentally challenged and or harmless to make the narrative being short. This type of thing could make people scratch their heads over this. Or let's just say it's painful to comprehend. That is the 40-year-old man who has been sheltering over the years being a complete nuisance in West Virginia. Chris, as most people know, is complete clueless and pain in the ass to deal with when serious shit doesn't faze him. He simply does not care, especially when he fucks around and finds out.
And I totally agree with you 100%, Rook. Especially some of the other places he's been banned and blacklisted, such as like the Game Place and the Charlottesville Fashion Square Mall that he usually hangs out at. He's like the walking talking definition of insanity, especially being banned 4 times at the mall.
And let us not forget how unhinged he is after being told to leave and call the police multiple times. But getting back about the $750 he stole from his mom's bank account. This isn't the first time he had done this. In fact, he had done this before by stealing his parents' credit card from them and purchasing things that are deemed unnecessary. Especially the hoarding habits he and his mom both share the same, as we previously mentioned earlier.
And as for the incest charge, you could argue that it has something to do with the ideal guys that just told him to do this and this and this. But of course, that communication had been cut off due to Knowles' intervention. But at a cost, Chris did it on his own fruition. He did it on his own through his own delusional mind that we can't even get rid off of him.
They say the mind bends and twists in order to deal with the horrors of life. I think my mind bent so much it snapped in two.
The phone call from Isabel Lariat Jenke, who is subhuman trash that could have reported to the police but didn't because of trolling or blackmail purposes she would use to her advantage. The handwritten prison letters that Chris sent out, and including Noel being the only person who found out and wants nothing to do with Chris's shit afterwards, are solid evidence that could put Chris away in prison, but instead put in jail. While in jail, he went 180 degrees by claiming he is Jesus Christ. This shit right here, you can't make this stuff up. The combinations of delusions of grandeur and coping mechanisms became intensified to the point they put him in the asylum for 3 months before the court hearing.
Now let's talk about me from my perspective real quick. Now when I first heard about the handwritten letters that are coming out of jail that are more delusional than ever, is when I basically of course gave up on this whole documentary. That is until of course I heard about him being transferred to the asylum, I think February or March as of 2022. Mainly due to the handwritten letters being more delusional than the next, which is probably the reasons why he ended up there in the first place. Or my personal theory is that they wanted to detoxify him from the internet, preventing him from handwritten letters and any other comments that are just coming in and out of jail that he's actually of course been submitted to. We haven't even heard anything about him until 3 months later. when he was resubmitted back into the same jail that he was been arrested at.
As for the court hearing, it was supposed to take place on September 16th, 2021. Then it got pushed to the November 18th, and then to February 3rd, 2022, and pushed yet again to July 28th, 2022. Up until March 27th, 2023, Chris was released from jail. For several months, according to the wiki, his whereabouts were unknown. On August 25th, the case was dismissed by the court. Chris did a live stream on October 26th, 2023, is when he became visibly nervous when sirens unexpectedly sounded in the background, indicating that he harbors a lingering fear of being arrested again after a comment about his crime was brought up again. To this day, he is still out there, waiting.
This will be the end recording for Dr. Olivia Blackwood at the Orlison Clinic of this documentary.
Did you miss me, you jerk?
You have got to be kidding. Rook, tell me that you have backups arriving right now.
Reinforcements are coming in. What's the situation?
Christian is in an armored tanker with a flamethrower on top, and he's chasing me around this stadium.
You have got to be kidding. Hang tight for weapons drop.
I'm gonna see if I can take out his shield and take his ass out before it's done. Take this!
Holy shit, you're not kidding. I can see camera view from the helicopters. And he built this thing?
Yeah, it's pretty fucking hard to believe this, but yeah, he actually did build this. Damn, he's like a frickin' bullet sponge from one missile after the other.
I can see why right now. Just hang in there and get missiles from the drop. I'll see if I can get a hold of Dr. Blackwood on scene.
Much appreciated, friend. We need answers for this.
Foolish bounty hunter, there is no escape.
And I'm gonna put you out of commission. Shit, I just gotta have to dodge and weave all this crap. Eat lead, sucker!
You'll pay for that.
His shield is down. I repeat, Chris's shield is down.
Sir, I contacted Dr. Olivia Blackwood. Her and her men are armed and ready to take him down once the fight is over.
Good timing as always, Rook. Now let's make this count, shall we?
I'll swallow your soul.
Fuck me, he's even more deranged than I thought previously. But I can't just give up now. I gotta have to end this. Now, once and for all. Eat lead, scumbucket.
Shut up and bleed, you motherfucker.
No. You first.
It will never be over!
And it's time to say goodbye to all of you. But I'll be seeing you again very soon. Goodbye.